Okay, you guys, I am so excited to welcome these two guests. We have Wren Woodson and Mabel Kabani on the podcast, aka News Girls. Welcome to Seeing Other People.
Thank you. We're so excited.
I need to thank you for the work that you are doing because I feel just so much more informed after listening to your podcast every week. And listen, there are a lot of ways I can get my news. Like, that's no secret. But hearing it from two girls who I feel like we get each other, like your girls like me, it's not intimidating. You break it down in such a digestible way. And I'm like, wow, I actually understand what's going on for once. So where have you been all my life? And thank you.
Oh my God, thank you so much. That's really what we're trying to do.
That's high praise, yes. Thank you.
You're doing an amazing job at it. How did News Girls happen? I want to hear the background, how you two know each other, where this podcast came from before we get into the good stuff.
Yes. So Mabel and I met like 5 years ago now.
Yeah.
We were both like basically glorified interns at 60 Minutes.
Yes.
And we worked there as like associate producers basically. Mm-hmm. Immediately became friends when we met because we both love Taylor Swift.
Love.
You know, that bond just like cuts through everything.
Did you guys go to Eras?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Did you not?
I'm really okay. I will share this. When the first time around when tickets were going on sale, I was like, I really want to go. I have many friends who they will cry and their life will be ruined if they don't go. And I imagine there are millions of girls out there. And who am I to take a ticket away from them?
Oh my God, that is so
too nice. I know. I will regret it for the rest of my life.
No, you will regret it. Yeah.
So I didn't get tickets. I immediately regretted it. And then I tried to get the wait list or whatever I applied to try and get tickets for Miami.
Yeah.
Didn't get it. And I looked on StubHub and all that.
Crazy.
And I was like, I can't spend 3 months of rent on a ticket.
Tickets, no.
So the Eras tour is going to end without me ever seeing it. And
well, I'm sure the Swiftie community thanks you for what you've done.
It was a really big sacrifice. But I love that.
Yeah, that was kind of one of the first things we like ever talked about. And then everything we would talk about after, we just like would love talking to each other about like everything. It was just Taylor Swift and it was Anderson Cooper and it was like healthcare and like things going on in the world. So our conversations just kind of got deeper and deeper until we were like, okay, like what if we like started like a project together?
Yeah, because we were frustrated that young people weren't watching 60 Minutes.
Yeah.
Like, or
They're
any
not.
or any like TV news. Like they were really just swiping and that was it. And we were doing contributing to such incredible journalism and it was just missing all of our friends. Mm-hmm. So we were like, what if we could take what we've learned here and apply it to something they would actually want to watch or listen? And that was literally 4 years ago. And then slowly we developed this idea, like came together more and more. We started like doing like tests and like making videos and like discovered we can actually write stories together well.
Yeah. And it kind of started over COVID. We were just kind of like, this was an idea that always existed in our heads, but like over COVID, we would do these weekly FaceTimes and then we just kind of like started actually creating a show every time we would FaceTime until it became like a real thing. And then we like pitched it around and like launched about a month ago.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What has been like the expectations versus reality of having a podcast?
It's so much work. Oh my God. The editing, like you think all the work is like on the front end, like, and it is, a lot of it is for journalism because of research and writing.
Mm-hmm.
But then the editing and like tweaking and making sure everything is perfect.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I think, I imagine the way we podcast is so different because you guys have to have all the facts and the stats and do the research. And I'm like, we're just going to chat, like shoot the shit. Like, sure, maybe like probably the longest I've spent prepping for an episode is an hour. Unless it's an author and I read their book before.
Whoa.
Yeah. It takes us a while to come up with like our concept and research and fact check. And like, we want to make sure like part of what we wanted to do was like exist as a news like podcast on social media that's not just like spewing misinformation. And so that's really important to us. So then the fact checking and all of that does take a really long time.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I love what you're doing so much because sure, like you said, like everyone's just getting their news from scrolling social media, but that is 1% of the story.
Yeah.
And so listening to you guys, it gives me so much more information. And especially like post-election, I'm able to really understand like there are so many changes happening in the world and they're going to continue to be. And so I feel like comforted that I have you guys in my ears like explaining it to me.
No, we feel like after 2 weeks ago, our job got really important. And like in these coming 4 years, journalism is never going to be more important than it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Journalism, news, dating, relationships, so much to talk about here. I'm going to let the news girls take over for a minute and really dive into the dating landscape and what is going on with modern dating. They have some amazing stats and amazing data, and we're going to talk all about dating apps and ways to meet people off the dating apps. Let's get into it.
The first question, why do you think dating apps are dying? We kind of saw them peak like 5-6 years ago. Like, why are they dying all of a sudden?
People are really burnt out from using them and overusing them. They've definitely become more of an addiction than a tool for so many people. And I think the biggest thing is coming out of COVID, people really wanted true, genuine human connection. And they weren't finding that on the dating apps, or they would find it or think they find it and they never actually get to the date, or they get to the date and it doesn't go anywhere else. And so people are feeling so exhausted from swipe culture and swiping with no results. And so all they want is to meet people in person, but they don't know how to do that either because they're so used to going back to their phones.
100%. And in your work, are you seeing people opt for more IRL events? Like pickleball had its phase, and then run clubs, and now I'm seeing singles dinner parties. I don't know if that's going to take off.
Yeah, I'm seeing people really push themselves out of their comfort zone and actually go to these events and go to things like speed dating, or, you know, pick up a new sport or try running just to put themselves out there. When, you know, a year or two ago, they would have thought that's so taboo and weird, I'm not going to do that. But they're really, really craving that in-person connection.
Yeah, no, and it's daunting. We went to a run club just to like see what it was like, a dating run club. And so many guys came up to talk to us, and we were like, that's really like
rare,
bold of you.
Yeah.
Like they're really seeking it out.
Yeah, like I feel like it was apps and now it's like these events, but people still like have a hard time going up to people and like on the subway or like in bars. Like, why can't you just go up to people at bars? That's like not really a thing anymore, but like these events kind of make it more comfortable and like normal to like strike up a conversation.
Yeah, and I think it's actually having a really great effect, like a domino effect, where people are going to these events, they're seeing that, okay, I can have a conversation with a stranger and I'm not going to spontaneously combust. And then they're able to put it into practice in their real life day-to-day interactions. But we still have such a long way to go because there are so many people who haven't taken the step to go to these events. They say over and over, I want to meet somebody in real life. I'm sick of the dating apps. I'm deleting my dating apps. But they're not actually taking that next step to go meet somebody in person, or to say hi to a stranger, or to go to an event. But slowly but surely it is starting to shift.
What is your advice for getting over that mental block? Because it is hard and it is scary, and we're all like, fear of rejection is the number one reason why people don't ask others on dates. I was just reading about this. Like, how do you get over that?
If you don't try, you're rejecting yourself. You're not even giving the person the opportunity. Maybe they would love to talk to you. Maybe all they want is for someone to come up and talk to them. Maybe they're having a horrible day and you saying hi would make their day 1,000 times better. You're not even giving them the chance to decide if they're interested in having a conversation with you or not. You're rejecting yourself on their behalf by not trying. So would you rather try, get the experience, have a conversation? Maybe it goes somewhere, maybe it doesn't. But if it doesn't, you're back where you were when you started, but you've also done this really hard thing, and next time it'll be easier. So you actually have nothing to lose by trying. And I talk to people all the time where they're so afraid, like, well, then I'm going to get rejected and I'm going to be even more afraid next time. But I challenge them to do it. They do it. You know, maybe the person's not interested or they're in a committed relationship already. They're still happy they did it because they're like, oh, wow, that actually wasn't terrifying. And we had a great conversation anyway.
Yeah, they survived.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're proud of yourself.
Yeah.
So what is your like stance on apps? You seem like pro like meeting in real life. Everyone's kind of over apps. Like, what do you actually think about them?
I think they're an amazing tool, but that's what they are. They can't be the only way to date. You can't just rely on the dating apps. You're putting way too much power into this thing that a lot of it's out of your control. A lot of it is really up to luck and timing and the mood that you're in when you're swiping. And listen, I met my husband on Hinge. I worked at Hinge for 2 years.
Yeah.
I fully do believe that you can meet people on dating apps. You can get into relationships on dating apps, but you can't only use the dating apps. You have to also be putting yourself out there and asking people in your life to set you up. You can't put all of your eggs in the dating app basket, because when it doesn't work out, it's going to be so much more defeating and you're going to feel so much more hopeless than, you know, if you're going to an event on a Wednesday and then you have a dating app date on a Thursday, and let's say you don't meet anyone at either of those things, you spend your weekend on the apps and you don't match with anybody new, you're going to feel like, wow, everything sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like you have to do a bunch of different things. It's the same. It's like applying to colleges. You wouldn't just apply to one college. Early decision. You would apply to a bunch of different colleges. You would have safety schools. You would apply to different programs within schools. You have to give yourself different options in order to create opportunity for yourself.
Definitely. And so you worked at Hinge, like kind of in its heyday, I would say, like the peak dating app. So what was that like?
It was really special. I will say, like, listen, there are so many wonderful things I could say about my time there. There are some not so wonderful things I could say about my time there. But overall, it was an amazing company filled with people who just want to help other people find love. And so there is this sentiment of like, the dating apps hate us and they want us all to be miserable. Like, that's not true. They exist because people want to help other people find love. I mean, we would have an all hands weekly meeting where we would celebrate success stories, and like we joked that we were in the art of like the baby making business. It was so cool and special to be in that environment. It really was just a team of people working so hard to make dating better. That doesn't mean dating can magically be better. That doesn't mean that apps can solve everything. There are definitely issues with dating apps and bad actors on dating apps. And a lot of us don't know how to properly use dating apps, but the apps themselves, like they really do want you to meet people. Like the people who work at these apps are there for a good reason.
That's encouraging to hear.
Yeah. Well, because we've talked about this. We've always like been skeptical about like the incentive of dating apps. Like, that's how they make money, is like working,
right?
Like having single people kind of join in to meet other people. So we've talked about this. Like, what are their true like intentions? What is it like working there?
There's nothing. Okay, let's go Hinge, for example. They have this slogan, designed to be deleted. Yeah. And people are like, well, that's bullshit. Designed to keep you on forever. But that was invented, or that slogan, they came up with that because they really want people to meet someone and get off the app. Yes, they're no longer going to be an active user on the app. Maybe they're no longer going to be a subscriber, but they are somebody who's going to tell everyone they know, I met my significant other on Hinge. And they are a walking advertisement for the app if it works for them. So they really do want people to meet someone and get off the app. Like they genuinely do want that. And
how do you think Hinge became, I would say, the biggest dating app I hear my single friends use? Like it used to be Tinder and then it was Bumble. And now like Hinge supremacy has stayed for a while. Like what did they do?
That I don't know. I will say when I applied to work there, at the time I had been single in New York for a little over 2 years. It really was the only app that I had ever gone on dates from. And I was on Bumble, I was on Tinder, I was on Coffee Meets Bagel, I was on all these other apps, The League, J-Swipe, like if there was an app, I was on it, except for Raya. They never accepted me. Oh, no. It's fine. I'm over it. But Hinge was the only one that I really had quote unquote success on.
Yeah.
And I don't know what specifically it was. I do think there's something to be said about the fact that they started as the mutual friends app where people felt a little safer, or like they felt more comfortable. Like it was people that they could meet in real life through friends, even though, you know, by the time I started working there, they weren't that anymore. That wasn't their thing. But I do think people still associated them with that for so long that they felt more comfortable on Hinge.
Yeah. I've always wondered, is it their algorithm? Like, is it, because Bumble's big thing is like the women have to make the first move, which I've heard both the feminist and the anti take on that. So Hinge doesn't require that, and I think
there's no gimmick.
Maybe a pro. Yeah.
It felt more genuine.
Yeah.
So what did you do while you were there? Like, what was your job title?
Video and content producer and lead content creator. So I ran their social media. So I was creating content, creating dating advice. I was taking over their Instagram story every single day, talking to their audience and really, you know, in the DMs with them, like in the thick of it, figuring out what do they need help with? How can we help them? What insight can we give? How can we teach them to use the app better? Because I think one of the biggest problems with dating apps is they just appeared one day and nobody actually taught anyone how to use them.
Yeah.
And there is a right way and a wrong way to use them.
I think especially the men need this lesson.
So give everyone a lesson. Like, what would you? How do you use an app?
a lot of it comes with the creation part. And I think this is going back to that original stat that you mentioned of the percentage of users that delete it within the first month. People are so eager to get on that they are rushing through the profile creation phase. They're just uploading whatever 6 pictures they think are the most attractive. They're answering the prompts in whatever like witty way they can come up with. They're not actually saying anything about themselves. It's like going back to, you know, applying to college or applying to a job. You would never just write a resume and submit it. You would have friends and family and college counselors and advisors check it over and make sure that every word is like meticulously placed and really describes your experience. That's the same. Like, it should be the same thing with dating apps. We should be making sure that so many different sides of us are shown and brought out in our profile, that we're, you know, giving people parts of our personality and showing them like, hey, if you date me, like, this is what that might look like. This is what that might feel like. Here's what I'm really looking for. And most people are not doing that.
Mm-hmm. I feel like back in the day, like, when you would see like someone using a dating app like in a movie, that person was always taking dating really seriously, and you like really wanted a relationship, so that's why you had a dating app. It seemed like the smarter way to date. But now, like, since everyone's on them, it feels like people take it less seriously. So would it be weird to like upload like your wishes and dreams and like ethics on a dating app when everyone is just kind of like casually using it?
I think you have to show, not tell.
Yeah.
You can't, you know, so many people, I do dating app profile revamps like as a side gig.
Oh, cool.
So people come to me and they're like, here's my profile, fix it. And I will sit down with them. I will learn about who they are and what they want and what hasn't worked for them in the past and what they're attracted to. And what I see so often is people come with like a laundry list of like green flags I look for: communicative, empathy, kind, supportive, creative, outgoing. And it's this laundry list of things they want in a partner. But people have to remember, we're our own worst critics. So when we see somebody having a list of all these things that they want in somebody, we might be all of those things, but we're never going to think that of ourselves. In fact, we're going to think, oh, wow, I'm not going to live up to this person's standards. Like, I think I'm creative, but maybe I'm not as creative as they want me to be. Or I like to communicate, but I don't know, like, maybe this is a little intimidating for me. And so we have to, you know, show that we want somebody who is adventurous rather than just saying we want adventure. You know, and we can show that through our photos. We can show that through a prompt of what our typical Sunday is like, and really spelling out that, you know, we like to go for a hike in a new place. Like, we take the Metro North to some random suburb and go for a hike, and then, you know, try out a new coffee shop, and then come back and watch 60 Minutes, whatever it is. Like, you really have to spell out who you are and what you're about so that somebody can envision it and really like understand you rather than just like read a sentence.
Yes, I think I'm just gonna share personally, like, my biggest thing is you can't read someone's energy through a dating app. And I know for me as a person, I'm so susceptible to that, like meeting someone in person, like, how do they carry themselves, their charisma, like I'm more focused on that. And then when you get on the app, it's so like one-dimensional. I like boil them down to just the superficial things, like where they go to school, how tall are they, and then I judge it on that, and you don't get like a 360 view of someone. So that's like, I think then we end up judging on the wrong things, and getting rid of people that you might actually be interested in if you met them and like could see them in person, I guess.
Absolutely. I mean, think about like when you meet somebody in person, you're not just learning where they grew up and what school they went to and what degree they got and what job they have now, like in 3 seconds, and then making a snap judgment. You're feeling out the vibe and you're seeing if you guys click and having a conversation, and then you're finding that out. Same thing with, you know, if you were sitting at a bar and you started talking to the person who was sitting down next to you, you had this conversation, and then they stood up and they're 5'4", but you would only want to date somebody 5'5" and above. but you connected with them, you know, on an app. Your filters wouldn't even let you match with that person or have the potential to. And same thing with colleges. I mean, I have a friend who she's very smart. She loves like intellectually stimulating conversations. She has always wanted to be with somebody who like went to an Ivy League school and like maybe had a second degree and was this and was that, whatever. She met somebody at work and she fell in love with him. He is none of the things that she thought she wanted, but they met and they connected. And that's the difference.
Yeah. And it just, there's no good way to put that on a page. Okay. So do you think dating apps have changed the culture like irreversibly? Like, Going back to IRL, is that even possible at this point, or are they here to stay?
I think dating apps are here to stay, but I don't think people are going to only rely on the dating apps the way they have over the past decade. And I think there are so many dating apps popping up that are doing dating in a different way, where they're trying to solve for this real life connectivity problem. They're trying to solve for, women feeling more safe on the apps. This app, for example, Foreplay Social, they are a double dating app, essentially. So you and your best single friend make a profile together and you swipe on other single friends together. And so it's these joint profiles, and it takes the pressure off, because at the end of the day, you could go out with somebody you matched with and maybe none of you end up like hitting it off in a romantic way, but the four of you have so much fun together, and at the end of the day, you're out with your best friend, creating memories.
Totally.
It's a story to tell, and it's fun.
And probably more comfortable.
Safer, for sure. And you have somebody like in the thick of it with you. I think that's an awesome app. This app, First Rounds on Me, in order to match, somebody proposes a date plan, and you either accept or decline the date plan. And then the chat doesn't open until 12 hours before your date is planned. So you're not wasting time endlessly talking to each other and becoming pen pals, but not actually getting to the date.
Yes.
So there are apps out there that are really working to make it a better experience. And I do think it's a matter of like which of them are going to, cut through and make it.
Yeah.
So I really like to see the creative ways that, entrepreneurs and tech people are making it work and making it, more fun and different. But I do think this desire for people to meet in real life is going to ultimately benefit the dating space as a whole, because I also think it will lead to better date conversations, even for people who do meet on the apps.
Mm-hmm. Do you think, though, that dating apps have created this like overwhelming impression that there's like a billion choices out there? Like, is that kind of like an issue that with men and women, it's just like, okay, if this person isn't perfect, I'll like swipe 800 more times to find someone who is perfect. Like, is that also ultimately an issue that like, how do you even get over that?
Yes and no. For some people, for like one bucket of people over here, it is absolutely an issue. And they are thinking, oh, well, this person has 9 out of 10 things on my checklist, but maybe someone better is one swipe away. Like, I'm not going to commit. I'm going to keep going. And there are other people who can't get a date. They can't get a match for the life of them on the apps. The apps are not working for them. Mm-hmm. So it's two completely different buckets of people with very different issues. I had 2 friends who, the 3 of us would hang out. They were both single. And one of them could go on a date every night of the week if she wanted to from the apps. And the guys would be the types of guys she wanted to go out with and she was really attracted to and excited to go out with them. And the other friend could not get one date with one person that she would remotely be interested in. They're both normal, great, smart, beautiful girls, and the apps worked for one of them and not the other.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah.
What events or like what's your advice for meeting someone in the wild, like other than these like more gimmicky things? Like, is there any advice?
Smile. Like smiling at somebody who walks in a door could go. Like that could end up being the person you marry. You never know. Or maybe, they feel more comfortable and warm striking up a conversation with you. Maybe they have a friend for you. You never know. Like, you just have to smile. You have to put your phone down. There's nothing less approachable. Well, 2 things. One, the second you're on your phone, you may as well not be there.
Yeah.
Right.
You're not there. And there's nothing less approachable than a group of girls standing together in a circle.
Oh, yeah. The like
I'm
energy.
To walk up to a group of girls.
So if you and your girls are going out and you're like, girls' night, like let's go try and meet guys, like you have to break it up. You have to do it in a different way, because you can't just expect, oh, this group of 4 guys is going to come up to this circle of us 4 girls and we're all going to meet somebody we like. Like, that doesn't work.
No, that's so true.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm curious, shifting gears a bit, being so on top of the news on a day-to-day basis, it's not the most pleasant, I can imagine. How has that impacted your well-being and the conversations you're having with your partner, people you go on dates with, friends, each other? Like, what is that like? Because sometimes I feel like when I learn about what's going on in the world, like it just puts such a dark cloud over me and everything that I do.
I think for us, since we've like known that we wanted to do this for so long, keeping up with it feels very second nature, but it definitely, I think, impacts the way we communicate with people, just because it can be really frustrating when like people are just kind of like, oh, I can't like keep up with the new, like I don't want to anymore, like I don't care about what's happening all the way over there. And so we obviously have to be like, we get it, but it's like frustrating when people don't even really want to know what's going on and don't like want to care about what's happening to other people. So I think it's more of just like it increasingly gets frustrating when people just don't care, and we kind of have to be like, okay.
Yeah, and I think naturally we gravitate towards people who are inclined to be interested, and I can speak from being single and going on dates. That really weeds people out fast. It's kind of a perk of the job, I guess. Like, I'm going to need someone to talk about these serious world events with, and if they don't care or don't even have the capacity to do that, then it's not going to be a match.
That definitely is a filtering system of its own, because there are a lot of people there who don't care.
No.
And who don't want to talk about it, or who are like, okay, like, well, we can't do anything about it, so let's talk about other things.
Right. Yeah.
But it's such a big part of your life.
Yes.
And it's hard to ignore.
Yeah, and I think, I don't want to be like too like generalizations, but like it can speak to kind of like a thoughtfulness beyond oneself. Not always, like there could be other reasons people aren't interested, but that is, I think, could be indicative of someone's overall thoughtfulness. Like, are they going to be thoughtful about me and like really be like anticipating my needs and wants, or does it speak to like kind of a selfishness? Right. So that's like something else that I always like try to weed out.
Have you had conversations on dates where you and this person have had like completely opposing viewpoints on a situation?
Yeah.
Oh my God, share.
So many times. I mean, I'm not going to say what my side is and what the other side is, but for me, and if we like just want to shift into politics, that would be a deal breaker for me. Like, I would need to be aligned with somebody, but being a journalist, we are super used to hearing opinions that we don't align with.
Right.
So I can always be like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, well, this is what I think. And like, I can keep it civil. I'm also from Wisconsin, which is very like purple. Like, it's like red, blue, everything. I have friends on both sides. So I'm very used to like keeping it close to the chest and just like, oh, cool. But then responding how I want to, like, later.
Yeah, it's also interesting to like dig into like why people think certain ways. Like, it's better to kind of have someone on like an opposing side than someone who just like doesn't care at all, because you can kind of like get into their psyche a little bit and like find out like why they think certain things, and then that helps us when we're like reporting and trying to understand like why people think certain things. So it's not always a bad thing to like talk to someone who's on the opposite, like on opposing sides.
But like for yourself, you need to be aligned with someone.
But it's also okay if that's not the case for you. Like, we talk about this all the time. It's okay if politics isn't a deal breaker.
Right.
But you should also give yourself permission, if it doesn't sit right with you, to let it be a deal breaker, because it can be a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's so important to figure out like what is important to you and stick with that. And I think politics, money, and it's like sex and like whether religion. Or not someone wants and religion, are like the biggest things that can tear a relationship apart.
But some people are of the mind where it's just politics, like it doesn't matter.
But it's so much more than that. It's values, it's what you care about and what means
and it's real world decisions. Like, if you're on opposite sides of abortion, like, we won't go too much into this, but like that's a decision that you might have to make together.
For sure.
And so if you're on different sides, like that, you're not going to be able to do that.
Did you watch Love is Blind when that happened? Yeah, that was a really cool conversation
like the recent
to see.
One? It was like a couple
seasons ago. I'm so bad with names, so I don't know the couple.
Me neither.
But it was it was a conversation like we've never seen on TV.
Yeah.
About people on different ends of the abortion spectrum. And really talking through it, and they were sharing like why they felt certain ways, and that was a really cool conversation to see, because usually it's just like, well, it's black and white, like you're either okay with it or you're not, but it's so important to understand why someone is the way that they are. Words are hard.
No, but it's definitely like a good thing that now in society, like talking, like you said, those things used to be so tabooed, like politics, religion, but now it's like, it's so transparent. Like, it's kind of nice that you can go on a first or second date and like bring up political views if it is something that's important to you, because it does matter. And it's not like it was, I feel like 10, 20 years ago, where you like keep it under wraps for a while. And then you like 10 dates later find out that you're on opposing sides. Like, you can suss it out pretty quick.
Yeah.
Have you had to suss it out?
So yeah, I think the biggest thing I've run into is that people play the moderate card, as long as I don't really follow it that closely. But then, like, I can check their following and they're, like, following politicians on one side. I'm like, well, really? Because you're, like, liking all these posts.
Yeah.
And I think, especially in New York, since it is such a blue area, conservative guys really want to walk, like, in the middle. And they'll be like, well, I support gay marriage. And, like, try to, like, put that up front, probably because that gets some better results.
Yeah. Well, I have a friend of mine who we're not really friends anymore for unrelated to politics, no specific reason, but he used to come to me for like dating advice often. And at one point he went to get a degree and he was at a school and he said like, Alana, like I'm going out with these girls and they're coming over and everything's going really well. And after they come over, I never hear from them again. Oh, no. And I said, is your MAGA hat on your bookshelf? And he said, yeah. I go, that could be.
Yeah. Hide that.
And again, like, listen, I don't want to rub anyone the wrong way here. I'm just sharing like that was a problem for him.
Yeah.
And I've reached out to him and great guy. I've reached out to him so many times in the past. Like I have someone to set you up with. And he got to a point where he was like, I am having a really hard time with dating and with setups because of my political beliefs. If you're setting me up with someone, it has to be someone who's okay with it.
Yeah.
And more often than not, they were not.
Yes.
But it's real. It's hard.
That is a pro of the dating apps because you can list that.
Yeah.
And I always appreciate when someone has it listed and I'm like, amazing. Thank you for not wasting my time. Like, judge right away.
Whatever you believe in, you also deserve to be with people who are going to support that.
Yeah.
No, and like, I'm not saying it's wrong or right. It's just like we as a couple would not work.
Yeah. Oh, this conversation's so hard.
I know. We're walking a fine line.
I know. Okay. I want to talk about being in a relationship with news, with politics, with the world as it is right now. I think we all saw those TikToks and reels of people being like, well, I don't have to, end things with my husband because they're voting for like
you're not canceling out.
Yeah. What was that like going through the election, being in a relationship?
It wasn't too hard because I'm in a relationship. My boyfriend and I have been dating for like 4.5 years at this point. So we've gone through two elections together and we're pretty much politically aligned. We're both from Los Angeles. Like we've kind of grew up together and have had similar like beliefs. So it wasn't too hard, honestly. We would just like, I obviously work in journalism and he doesn't. So he would just like appreciate all of the,
I'm sure he learned so much.
He learned
and
so much.
Understood so much.
He is so welcome. Like he's learned so much. So it was kind of fun. I just got to like kind of like tell him stories and things that we were still at 60 Minutes at the first election and just kind of got to tell him things we were working on and he just got all the news and it was pretty easy, honestly. Yeah.
That's also awesome because like him getting the news from you, he could also educate his friends and family and people around him. Like I think that's the biggest issue with like our culture and society right now is like I said before, like people are getting 1% of the story.
Yeah.
And we all live in these echo chambers and nobody actually knows what they're talking about except for you guys who are doing the research and really understanding what's happening and what things mean and being able to, share that with people and then have them understand it and explain it to other people. Like with the election, there was so much that I didn't understand and I would call my friend Julia and my friend Christina and like ask them about it because they just understood it better than I did. And not everyone's going to do that. Is the problem. How did you guys meet?
So we actually went to high school together,
Wow.
but we didn't start dating till COVID. So we always just kind of knew each other. And then we both went back to California during the beginning of the pandemic when we all left New York and went back home for a bit. And then we just like started hanging out all the time and we were just kind of like best friends for like 5 or 6 months and then started like dating like over that. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How has it been for you guys, like being so close, being friends, working together, and having one of you in a relationship and one of you single?
I love Sammy, and he's kind of like our biggest fan.
Oh, literally biggest fan.
And like seeing they have a really healthy relationship, at least as far as I can tell.
Oh my God. Great. Gotta preface, like.
So I always appreciate he's like the first person who sees a lot of our stories and he gives amazing feedback. We'll take the time to like give notes at like live notes and like long like texts. So no complaints for me.
It is funny though because when Wren and I did become friends, we were both like extremely single and we were kind of like in our friend groups like the single girls. So like we for a really long part of our friendship, I guess, before the pandemic, were like really going out, like being single together. And so it definitely is slightly different because that like dynamic isn't like necessarily there anymore. But because that shift kind of happened over COVID, it felt less of like some big drastic difference in our friendship. Like so much had changed in those 3 years that was just like one of those things.
And Mabel's a great wing woman.
Ooh, okay, wait, I want to hear this. Tips for being a wing woman.
Okay, I feel like it can be hard in the beginning if you do. So this is like my first relationship ever, and I was kind of always the single one. So it can kind of be like weird to like be the single one who's like looking for guys, to being like, okay, it's not about me, it's about like somebody else. Like I feel like it becomes easy when you just like really want your friend to like get along with this guy. So you just have to like tap into that genuine like excitement that you have for your friend to like meet a guy, and then you like kind of just like amp them up a little bit and like talk about your friendship, and then kind of like leave them slowly as they're like getting along.
She's good. And so some friends are like really bad if it's just the two of you out at a bar, and like let's say I meet someone, I'm with a friend, they're kind of the third wheel, and like some friends like hate talking to the guys' friends. What if they're not cute, or what if they're not interesting? And then like they feel like a third wheel if they're talking to us, so they're just like, they hate it. Mabel is not like that at all. Like she takes one for the team. Like you're willing to talk to the guys' friends and like kind of keep the conversation light, but then also come back to us, and it's not like, it doesn't feel like someone else is there.
I appreciate that.
Who's making the approach? Like let's say you see a guy or a few guys and you're like, ooh, that one's cute. Like who is going up to them? How is this going down?
Neither of us.
Neither of us. But we will be open. I'll be like, Mabel, can we like switch positions so like he can see me?
Okay.
We'll do that. Yeah.
We'll like be very upfront, or like try to like get in the line of sight, basically. It depends. I would definitely go up to someone if I could kind of glean they were interested.
Yeah. Well, I think this is a really important thing to talk about, because you have to put a little bit of effort in.
Yeah.
Like it's not just going to poof happen. Like you
Yeah.
have to say, okay, there's somebody, like let me at least get in their line of sight so I can like we can make eyes from across the bar.
Yeah.
And then it's tag teaming and both of you putting in the work to, you know, make the conversation fun and enjoyable for everyone.
Yes. And I have friends in relationships who are so annoyed by me like wanting to do that, because they're like, oh my God, can we just like have a girl, like can we just like talk to each other? And like they don't care that if I'm like interested in someone at the bar, but you're not like that at all. And so I really appreciate that.
Do you have other single friends, or are you like the single one in the friend group now?
Depends on the friend group.
Fair.
I have a few single friends here and there. Most of my friends are in relationships at this point.
It's so frustrating when people aren't down to do
Yeah.
that. I mean, I have like one of my best friends is single, and I'm like, I will go out with you. Like, let's commit. Like, she doesn't want to go out. I'm like, let's commit to once a month. Like, we are going to go to a bar once a month. We haven't done it yet. I have to like drag her out of her apartment to make this happen. But why not? What's wrong with helping your friend meet somebody?
Yeah.
It's fun. It's harmless. And we should want our friends to be happy.
Yeah, and it's fun to go out and get dressed up and like you're out and seeing what's going on, I think.
Yeah, I think like maybe having it like as a dedicated night, like kind of going in, both people knowing like, okay, we're going to help you find a guy, is like helpful, instead of like, I can understand that some girls in relationships probably go out with single girls, and then if it becomes that, but you kind of just wanted to catch up with your friend, it can probably be kind of frustrating because it's hard to find time in the first place. So it probably is a good idea to be like, because like I'm sure girls in relationships want their single friends to like, they all want them to be happy and in relationships. So like, okay, this is the night, we're going to find you a guy, like let's put all of our resources together to like make it happen, is probably like a good idea.
I think so too. And on the flip side, like whether you're in a relationship or not and you're going out with your single friend, like if you want it to just be like, let's catch up, like have some heart to hearts, like don't go to a bar, go to dinner, or like go sit on someone's couch. Like, time and place for everything. What has your overall experience been being single in New York lately? Like, are you down on the apps? Are you like, did you like going to the run club? Like, what's the vibe?
Well, Alana, I've been on a journey. So I've been single in New York for like a few years, we'll say at this point. And in the beginning, I did all of the things. Like, I've gone on like dozens of dates at this point, countless situationships, played all the games, like waited the amount to like respond that they waited to respond to me. Like, if I had a nickel for every hour of my friend's time that I wasted crafting the perfect message, including Mabel, down to like the emoji or the exclamation point, like I'd have a lot of nickels. Like, I've done it all. And I think you have to go through all of that to get to the point where I am now, I feel like I can suss out if someone is going to be a match just like from a very brief meeting. But you have to get to that point. Like, you don't know what you don't know when you start out. And yeah, overall, I have avoided too many horror stories, but it's just been a lot of, you're just not the right person.
Yeah. Do you feel defeated, or do you still feel hopeful?
I still feel hopeful. But I think that's who I am as a person. I think it
Yeah,
will
I
take
can
a
tell.
lot for
Yeah.
me to get to a point where I'm like, oh my God, what is going to happen? And I feel grateful to have had this time to really develop as a person by myself and learn a lot of skills that I don't think you can kind of develop in a relationship, or it's harder.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so self-reliant, and I like have had to push myself to grow because there's no one like holding my hand who's gonna help me with that.
Yeah.
So I'm hopeful, and I think I'm like more ready now than I was for sure when I started at like 22.
Yeah, I was the same, where, you know, I was going on date after date and like, why isn't this happening? Like, is my person out there? And in hindsight, and I probably knew this deep down at the time, but I was not ready. Like, anyone I
Yeah.
would have ended up in a relationship with in my like early 20s would not have been.
Totally.
It would not have been the right relationship. There was no world in which it could have worked, because I myself, and this isn't for everyone, but like this was very specific to me, like I wasn't ready. There was so much I needed to learn. There was so much growth that needed to happen for me being confident in my own skin, understanding who I was, before I could actually be ready for the right relationship.
And how do you like reconcile this? Because this is like, then my mind goes to, I have friends who definitely weren't ready when they got into relationships, and some of those ended well, some of them didn't end well. I always think like everyone is on a different journey, 100%. And you just have to trust that like this was the path that was going to get you to where you needed to be, and like everyone else
absolutely
had something else.
I completely agree. I mean, timelines and being on different timelines as your friends, it gets more and more like at every year that goes by. I mean, think about it. We all graduate college, like we intern, we get our first jobs, we have our first apartments. We're all making like kind of the same amount of money, and it just fans out from there. People get into relationships, people get raises, people, you know, meet someone who changes their life in some type of way. People find this new passion of theirs that makes them so different. Like now I'm in the phase where I have friends who are thinking about getting pregnant for the second time, and I have friends who are single.
Yeah. No, it's such a wide spectrum.
It's so crazy, but it really is like everything is happening as it should for you. And it can sometimes be hard to like there are times where I feel like I'm falling behind, but I also know I'm miles ahead of other people who are the same age as me, who at one point we were on the same trajectory. So it's really hard, but I do think like everything will happen when it's supposed to happen for you. I mean, my husband and I, we matched on Hinge before, like prior to us matching and meeting.
Oh.
We had matched before and nothing ever came of it. And we always say, thank God, because we were not ready to meet each other yet.
Totally. That makes so much sense.
Yeah. What have you learned from being in a relationship? You mentioned it was your first relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Was there anything that like you didn't expect from this relationship that you're like, wow, like this is a really great thing that I did not think was going to happen?
Yeah, I feel like I was never like the person that really wanted like a relationship. I feel like it just like didn't like cross my mind. I was just never like out there like looking for it. Like, I mean, when I started dating my boyfriend now, I was only 23. So I was still like young and I wasn't really looking for it. So I didn't, when it happened, it kind of, everything that happened because of it was kind of like a surprise. Like I had no idea what to expect. So things were kind of a lot harder. Like I would say like the first year and a half than I ever expected things to be. And then like things would be like better and you'd get to like a level of closeness that I could have never like imagined. So because I never really had any experiences like that, everything was kind of like a surprise, which was nice. Yeah.
And it's cool to see those different chapters happen where like you might go through something, but then everything's great. And then you might have to have a hard conversation, but it makes you stronger and you're so close. Like there's so many different layers to it. I always say like, I don't want my relationship to be a roller coaster. And if it has to be, I want it to be the most boring roller coaster that everyone wants to get off because there are not enough twists and turns.
Totally. No, that makes sense. Like there's always like something kind of to like deal with or something great that just happened. Like we just moved in together like 2 months ago.
Oh my gosh.
So that's been like a whole like thing because even though we've been together for so long and kind of think that we know each other so well, living together is like so insanely different. And we're kind of like, who are you? Like, I literally didn't know this about you. And it's like a whole journey.
What's been the most shocking thing that you've experienced, and what do you think has been his most shocking thing that he's experienced about you?
That's a hard one. The most like shocking thing that I've experienced about him is how much like space he takes up. Kind of like, I'm just like, you have 7 t-shirts. Like, you are literally like, why is your stuff like taking over like my entire space? Like, that has been like so annoying for me to have to like come to terms with. Like, how your small footprint can like take over my entire apartment is kind of like was surprising, because I did not allot for that when we moved in together. And oh my God, like, I don't know what the most surprising thing he would think of me is. Like, Wren and I both do this where we've realized this about each other. We'll like wear the same
really exposing us.
like, wear the same like t-shirt for like 3 or 4 days in like a row.
Each, the two of you, or you and Sam?
Like
the two of us.
The two of us
will
we're FaceTiming all day every day.
So we'll see each other wear like the same t-shirt for like 4 days in a row. And he'll be like, so you're still not out of that t-shirt?
Oh
like,
my God.
what's up with that? And I'm just like, this is my life. This is how I do my life.
Yep.
I have 1 more day left in this t-shirt. Okay.
Yeah.
Still good. Okay.
I have so many clothes that Jake probably wants to burn. Actually, I put on this. I like to change in, like, when I get home later, I'm gonna change. I might go change into workout clothes. I'm in jeans and a sweater right now, you guys, for everyone listening. I'm probably gonna go home, change into workout clothes, go to the gym, come back, shower. I'm not gonna put my pajamas on, but I'm gonna put my like pre-pajamas on, like my comfies.
100%.
Yeah.
Jake came home the other day, and as a joke, he was like, "Oh, is that new?" Because I wear it every single day. And it's just so funny, like, those things. And it's like, I didn't even realize, like, is this weird? Like,
no,
I'm just living my life.
And we always say we're physically incapable of sitting in like nice clothes longer than us. You have to, like, the second you're home, changing back into like
that same t-shirt because it's day 2.
Jake always, he gets home from work and he takes his jeans off and he just throws them on the chair, like the kitchen table chair. I'm like,
relatable.
And then, but then he goes into the bedroom and like puts shorts on. I'm like, can you just take them with you into the bed? Like, why do they have to land on the chair every time?
These little things, like.
But the funny thing is, like, I have shit everywhere.
Oh,
it's just like the one thing that
you have it everywhere. He cannot have one thing out of place.
It's a journey. But that's really exciting. It's a fun time. Okay, this has been so amazing. I have one last question that I close every episode with. I would love to hear both of your answers. What is the best piece of dating or relationship advice you have ever received or have to give?
Okay, the best one that I've heard, and I heard this really recently, was go into every date as if you have like $1 million to give away instead of you're looking to get $1 million. Ooh. And I was like, holy cow, that really, like, it changes how you walk, because you're kind of like, you feel like you're the luckiest person, like you're gonna make someone else lucky, instead of like from a place of need, like trying to coax someone to like give you theirs.
Absolutely, because you want to suss out, do I like this person?
Yeah.
Do I, find value from my conversation with them? Did I have a good time with them? Do I want to see them again? Versus, we've all heard, like, it's about, do you like them, not do they like you? But that's a really great way to actually break it down and take the pressure off of it, of just like, who do I want to give my $1 million to?
Yeah, they're going to be the luckiest guy in the world.
Love that.
I feel like, based off of like my experience, just kind of going into a situation or like a relationship, being very like fearless and like open, I feel like is like something that everyone could kind of do. I feel like I was always kind of like scared and very kind of closed off because I just didn't know what to expect. And when I kind of decided to like be like braver emotionally, like everything kind of opened up for me. And I feel like that's kind of important, because we're also like in self-preservation mode, because we're so scared of like being rejected or like things not turning out the way we wanted. So being like open, I feel like, is always a better thing to do.
Absolutely. You want someone to love you for all of you. And that can be terrifying, but what's the point of being in a relationship if you're not gonna, open yourself up?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I love that. Guys, this has been so fun.
So fun.
Thank you. Where can everybody find you? Where can they listen to the pod?
Newsgirls Podcast on every platform. Listen to us, Spotify, Apple, YouTube, if you want the video, which we recommend.
Amazing. I love it. Thank you guys so much. Guys, seriously, if you're listening, like, go listen right now. I feel so much more informed, and like, I really can't explain like how well they articulate everything that's going on. It is an absolute must listen every single week.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.